Trust, at least to me, has never been something you hand over like loose change. It's something that's earned, guarded, and protected. When I slipped that ring onto Emily's finger and asked her to marry me, I believed we had that foundation. Almost 3 years together, surviving storms and celebrating wins, finding a rhythm that felt uniquely ours. When she said yes, eyes shimmering with tears, I thought I had found my forever. But forever began to crack in ways I couldn't ignore. Her phone, once tossed casually on the coffee table, became a permanent fixture in her hand. Nights that used to stretch into hours of laughter at home slowly turned into evenings with her friends. Girls' night out started rolling off her tongue with suspicious ease. I told myself I was being paranoid, that she was just exhausted, maybe needing her space. But then came Thursday. She told me she was meeting old college friends. Just a few drinks, some harmless catching up. She kissed me quickly and disappeared upstairs to get ready, her eyes avoiding mine. I noticed everything. That night, she believed I had plans of my own after a long work meeting downtown. What she didn't know was that fate had its own way of handing me the truth. My phone buzz. It was Matt, the boyfriend of one of Emily's friends. His voice carried hesitation, like he hated what he was about to say. They weren't at the bar, they claimed. He saw them instead heading toward the marina parking lot. My chest tightened, my pulse pounding in my ears. I tried to convince myself there was some explanation. But deep down, I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep without seeing it for myself. 15 minutes later, I pulled into the marina. The lot was quiet, lit by the dim glow of yellowed street lamps. I scanned for her car, and then something hit me harder than I expected. My old truck, the one I had sold 6 months ago, sitting in the shadows. Confusion spun in my head until the truth revealed itself in the worst possible way. Emily stepped out of the passenger's side, smoothing her dress, her hair just a little too messy to ignore. And there he was, Jason, leaning casually against the truck like it belonged to him, like she belonged to him. Jason, the one she swore 2 years ago, was just part of her past. The one she told me I never had to worry about. My stomach twisted into knots. For a brief second, they didn't see me. I stood there under the lamp's weak glow, the warmth draining out of me. When Emily finally spotted me, her smile collapsed. Her eyes widened, panic written all over her face. Jason, though, you just smirked. I didn't shout. I didn't lash out. Instead, I walked toward them with a calm that felt almost unnatural. My voice was flat, steady. Nice car, I said. Looks familiar. Emily froze, clutching her purse like it was a shield. Jason, with that same smug grin, chimed in. We were just catching up. Old friends. Friends, I repeated, my tone sharp as glass. At 10:30 at night in the back of a truck, Emily tried to get me to move the conversation somewhere else, but I stood my ground. That's when it all crystallized in my mind. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a slip. This was a pattern. The evasive behavior, the late nights, the excuses, it was all leading here. I looked at her steady. I'm not going anywhere. If you've got something to say it right here. Jason leaned back against the truck again, his smirk practically daring me to react. I didn't. Instead, I spoke quietly. Things like this don't just happen. They happen because two people choose for them to happen. Emily's voice cracked. Ryan, please. I made a mistake. I cut her off, my words cold. You and I both know exactly what this is. The silence stretched, broken only by the water slapping against the docks. It mocked the moment, like even the waves knew the truth. I could have exploded. I could have made a scene. Instead, I turned to Jason. You can keep the truck, I said evenly. Seems it suits you better. Then to Emily, I held out my hand. The ring slid off her finger into my palm. No words left between us. I walked away, each step heavy, but strangely freeing. Driving home was like moving through static. Every lie, every sudden shift, every excuse played back in my head. I wasn't burning with fury. What I felt was colder, sharper. By morning, her clothes and belongings were packed into boxes by the front door. When she finally knocked, desperate and trembling, I opened the door just enough for her to see my eyes. My voice was steady. There's nothing to explain. You lied. You cheated. And with him of all people. Her lips quivered as she whispered, "It wasn't like that." But I didn't argue. I stepped aside, showing her the boxes. "Everything's there. Take it and go." She carried them out in silence, muttering to herself, leaving nothing behind but the echo of what used to be. Weeks blurred together after that. I buried myself in work, the gym, anything that would keep my mind from drifting back to her. Then one evening, a friend sent me a screenshot. Emily and Jason smiling for a Facebook post captioned with a heart. Finally, where I was meant to be. I didn't reply. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I posted a picture of my new truck, paid in cash. Caption, upgrades all around. Not revenge, just moving forward. 2 months later, word reached me that Jason had sold my old truck. Emily, she'd already moved on again. And me, I didn't care. Because I had already rebuilt, I had already cut the cord. I wasn't the man who would bend and bleed for someone undeserving anymore. That man was gone, and he's not coming.